you thought you knew from the shed of dreams, the Leake in Review.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Thanks for all the love. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for reaching out going, hey, where's another show? Well, we just getting out of the Christmas break. We got lots of things in store. And this one came up real quick. There's a new documentary out there about a radio station in Toronto called CFNY when it first launched way back when. It's called The Spirit of Radio. And I watched this show and I didn't know what to expect from it, but I'm advising you right now, go on YouTube, go find this documentary. If you like music and if you like radio a little bit, you'll want to watch this because the impact that this radio station had, not only to a community, not to a city, but almost like the country and the world, is ginormous. And I think that this documentary does a very good job in kind of showing what was going on in those early days. And we're going to talk to one of the executive producers of the program, Alan Cross. You would know Alan Cross as the musicologist for Canada, has been for decades and will be for decades. We speak with him about CFNY, The Edge, the Spirit of Radio documentary on this episode of The Leake in Review.
Hi, my name is Kim Stockwood. I am a proud Newfoundlander and a Canadian singer-songwriter. In a landscape where many lack access to health benefits or employee assistance programs, the Unison Fund serves as a lifeline of hope for musicians and music industry professionals facing medical emergencies or mental health challenges. To learn more about Unison and their programs, please visit unisonfund.ca.
Let's get into the good times, and that is The Spirit of Radio, the new documentary that you are one of the key producers, I think, were you not the person who said with Ivor Hamilton, we should do a documentary on CFNY?
Oh yeah. We started talking about this about 10 years ago.
I was thinking that. I remember talking about this, I think, with you about this 10 years ago.
Well, we were running into all these other documentaries about radio stations in the States. WLIR in Long Island, KSAN in San Francisco, the Big 8 in Windsor. And it was like, well, these are all fine. But, we did some cool stuff. We were part of an interesting movement in music and society, at one point. And this should be documented before too many people die and too many people forget what went on. So for 7 years, we just whined and complained that nobody was doing anything about it. So then I met up with a guy named Matt Schichter, who was the fiance of a friend of mine. And Matt was a fledgling director and had some sort of a relationship with a production company here in Toronto called Highball TV. And I explained, how I was, we'd been whining about there not being any kind of CFNY documentary. And he says, oh, well, wait a second. Highball has this mandate to do this, this, and this. Why don't I pitch in the idea of a documentary? And they went for it. So in November 2022, I think, we all the paperwork was in order, all the tax credits were in order, all the guests, all the people that we had on our wish list to interview were in order, and locations were scouted and all that sort of stuff. We started filming in November 2022, and everything wrapped up at the end of 2023, and then there was a long period of post-production and a bunch of other things. And finally, on Monday, January the 5th, we had a private premiere. And on Saturday, or Tuesday, January the 6th, it debuted on TV Ontario and also on their YouTube channel. So anybody in the world can see it, I think.
Well, I ended up coming across it yesterday. I knew this was coming. And last night, I guess it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, boy, do I start watching this right now? Thinking that I'll probably only watch it for a few minutes and I'll bail. And I'll come back to it, in the next day or so. Well, thank God the doc is only an hour long. And I say that lovingly because I was hooked right away. You guys did such a great job of it. And when you say that you started working on this a decade ago, when you first met Matt, it probably turned into a sprint because now you had to get everybody in place immediately. And
Mhm.
you had so much great content on that. Not to mention, like, not just, I think getting an artist like Jim Kerr from Simple Minds or Ben from Billy Talent and Derek from Sum 41, that to me almost seems easy for a
Mhm.
person like yourself compared to those photos that you guys found, because
Well,
there's no digital archive of that stuff.
no, there isn't. I mean, we supplied some of them, and we had Miles, who's a fantastic editor. We had, Matt was looking for stuff as well. We had people, researching this whole thing. It was a fairly expensive production. And, if we had had more money, we could have probably, stretched it out or gone even deeper into it. But I got to tell you, if you watch the documentary, most of the money went to licensing the music.
You did
Uh,
have, I was surprised. I'm like, did Rush donate the song? They must have given
no,
some, they had to have given a friends and family deal on that track.
I don't know. There are five executive producers, one of whom is a Canadian living in Nashville named Barb Hall. Barb is an Emmy award-winning documentary producer. She's had stuff on American Masters on PBS, and she also knows how to clear music internationally. So whatever magic Barb was able to conjure, she did a great job.
The people who do licensing of content like that for music for content, my God, that is a big job that a lot of people do not understand. And it's getting harder and harder because there are so many people who have touch points on songs today compared to three guys by the name of Rush in the band Rush and whoever owned the mechanicals and then who the publisher was. I mean,
Yeah,
that's easy
that
compared to a Beyonce song, which might have 60 different touch points on it.
yeah, that's true. Even so, more than half the budget went to music.
Well, it was great.
We did not know Ivor Hamilton, one of the other executive producers, worked in at Universal Music as a VP of catalog and other things, and he knew a lot about music licensing because that's one of the things he was involved in. And there was a cautionary tale. You might remember the Much Music documentary that was attempted at a release a couple of years ago. And part of the problem there is that there was no proper clearance for some of the music. There was some bad legal advice, I guess, or something that basically has halted that. And until that gets sorted out, we won't be seeing that doc. We did not want to end up being caught that way, so we were extremely cautious with the music that we chose, and we were turned down a lot. I don't know what our wish list was, but it was dozens and dozens of songs, and a ton of them were denied. And that's not unusual. I mean, we would have liked a U2 song, we would have liked a Depeche Mode song, we would have liked some Duran Duran, and for whatever reason, those didn't make the cut. We had one too. There's one point where Scott Turner talks about hearing the song "Television" from Japan, and we wanted to put television under what he was talking about, but we were unable to get the rights to that song.
Well, in my experience, and I've cleared or had licensing deals for hundreds of songs, it can come down to just one person
Hmm.
in that chain. There might be, like I said, there might only be five people involved in a particular title. But if one person says no, it's done.
It is. And when you have 15 songwriters on a song, it's really easy for somebody to deep six this idea.
Well, good thing you guys had the contacts and you're working with the right people because it did sound good. I found the documentary and I did not know what to expect. One, I liked it so much. I was saddened that it was short.
Yeah.
It looked to me like you probably left a lot on the floor. Was there any particular reason for
we
that?
just timing. Now, the distribution that we got was from TVO, and they wanted a 60-minute program. That fit their programming needs. So a 60-minute edit was commissioned, and yes, a lot of stuff had to be judiciously edited out. Now, the stuff still exists. I mean, there is, I think, 30 terabytes of raw footage
Sure.
that we shot over the 18 months or so that we did this, 30 terabytes. So there's a lot of stuff there. It all came down to, we could have made it longer, but, it came down to money. Finding an editor to do this when you have no money is impossible. So what we did manage to accomplish was, pretty remarkable. Maybe one day there'll be some kind of director's cut. I don't know. But we would need some serious cash. Probably, gosh, if we figure in music into this other footage, we another $250,000 maybe. I don't know.
Well, I guess there's a good side to it. You edited it down, and for myself, and I know others who have seen it, they're looking for more. So that's a positive sign. Like, as opposed to, boy, this is dragging. Okay, wrap it up already, which is a common thing in documentaries. Documentaries can drag out. And I've seen a lot of bad music documentaries to a point where I don't even like watching them for the most part, because this isn't very interesting. But the impact of CFNY, I didn't know about it really. And I'm a person who worked at that station for probably 200 or so shifts. I did not know how it had started in Brampton, and you couldn't hear it in Toronto yet. And one day, Dave Marsden says, I got an idea. Let's go back to the CRTC and tell them Brampton people drive to Toronto and they need to hear this station. That made me laugh because, one, I mean, look, it's a great idea. You came with a different angle and got the license to now all of a sudden have an audience in Toronto. But could you imagine saying something like that in today's world to the CRTC?
Not a chance.
It's ridiculous.
When he told that story, I went, really? That was the angle that worked? That was in 1983. That worked against, I can't even imagine all the interventions that must have been filed against that by other radio companies. Yet somehow he made it happen. And we're still on the CN Tower.
By that logic, any radio station could say, well, we do have people who work in the trucking industry and they drive from Toronto to Surrey, British Columbia quite regularly, and they would like to hear their radio station. So we would like repeater towers across the entire country. And the CRTC would have to go, well, I guess so. Yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. With this now, the documentary is out, and that I would say, though, there must be already in just 1 week, a lot of people who are asking or making comments saying, well, what about this? And what about that? That's got to be
I mean, some of the things that were cut out were, the story of the Casby Music Awards. There were plenty of interviews that didn't make the final cut. I would have loved to have been able to focus on more of the personalities of that particular era. We have all this stuff, but it just, again, it's time and money, and making something like this is extraordinarily difficult and expensive. And there's so many moving parts to it with all these different people and the rights, and you have to have this done by such and such a time. And if you change the edit too much, well, then you violated the agreement, and we have to go back and relicense it. Oh, it's just a nightmare. So we learned a lot from about how to make music documentaries. And we'll see what happens going forward, because in the first not even 24 hours, there were almost 20,000 views on YouTube, which is pretty good. And we've had interest from PBS. They're looking for content now that Trump has shut down the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, so we could end up on border stations from coast to coast, which would be fantastic. There are plans for maybe we can expand this into something that
it's triggered my mind I have so many ideas from that, but it's also triggered so many memories for me about radio that I grew up listening to.
Yes. So, maybe this is one episode of a 6-episode arc about, radio stations that changed the world. Maybe that'll happen. That would be a fantastic thing on, Netflix or something. How
influential a radio station can be. And I've been saying this, I continue to say it today. Radio is gigantic. They don't have an audience problem. They have a monetization problem. They need to figure that out. And I wish that they would, invest a little bit more into that talent that would come up with these great ideas and that ownership of, I found this new song, we should, bring this with passion, and then let a station play it like CFNY did until the big corporation came along and said, it's time to start playing Culture Club because we want to expand our audience.
Well, I'm going to tell you a secret. CFNY was the first radio station in Canada to play Culture Club. And not only that, Kissing to Be Clever was the first CD played on the air in Canada.
I remember working at a rock radio station. This is in the 90s. And you got to be true to your form when you're in these radio stations. Like, people need to know that they are listening to, if it's CFNY, The Edge, whichever radio station, they need to know that they're listening to it. It's got to feel that same vibe every single time. And there was a jump the shark moment for a radio station that I worked at. And that was going from the coolest song from Nirvana into a global pop hit, Seal, Kiss from a Rose. And I remember, and it brought back so many memories watching your documentary, where people were calling in with hatred about Culture Club being played. I remember those days at the radio station, people calling me and saying, what are you doing? And you're like, I just work here, man. First line of defense and just taking a beating.
There was one comment that I saw where we have actual recordings of certain things in the documentary. There's David Marsden pleading for people to start petitions to keep the station on the air.
Great clip.
And then there's another bit of recording there where you hear Ivor and Scott Turner answering the phones when we started playing those top 40 songs. And they said, well, that must have been recreated. No, it wasn't. That's the real thing. That we Scott and Ivor ran tape when they were taking those phone calls just so they could prove a point.
Again, first line of defense, the beating that you would take as a radio host on a regular basis. And it wasn't just a song you were playing. It could be a song that you hadn't played yet. And someone would take such offense to you not delivering their track. But that goes to speak more to the impact that radio has on a community.
You know, one of the things, going back to this idea of making this part of a multi-part series, one of the reasons a lot of people keep saying that, radio is dead is because of what they're saying in the United States, because the Americans completely screwed up their radio industry after the 1996 Telecommunications Act. And radio became this giant real estate play instead of this proper communication medium. And yeah, radio in the United States hurts a lot. So we get a lot of that flowing over the border. And meanwhile, I just saw a study the other day, 81% of Canadians listen to listen to radio every single week. And not only that, they don't just listen in the car anymore. About half of people are listening to radios at home these days, thanks largely to things like smart speakers. So radio is still very powerful, very powerful, very, very profitable, very popular. Yet, people insist, oh, I don't listen to the radio anymore. Oh, I don't like radio. Or, who listens to the radio? That is all false. So if we were to do one of these longer forms, and maybe this is the tip of the spear, maybe we do one of these longer form things where we highlight all these different radio stations and show how important radio can be, then some people, especially south of the border, will get their act together and say, you know what, maybe we can get behind this. If you go to the UK, radio is still a very important thing. If you go to Australia, radio is still a very important thing. Why can't we do it here? Because, well, the Americans have really messed things up in North America.
It's a funny thing, though, to even have that argument when we know that if there is any sort of frequency that is being broadcast to a community, say your neighborhood, what is the likelihood of your neighborhood listening to the same Spotify channel compared to listening to an FM channel?
Exactly. Yes. 100%.
So you take
zero.
you take your street and then multiply it by the 100,000 streets in the community, and it's going to be parallel. The number of listeners to a local radio station is going to trump, using that, the digital service, 1,000 times over, 100,000 times over. To see, and we're all hearing something, a message that is being broadcast simultaneously. So
right.
It's a powerful medium.
It's a community thing. It's a human thing. It's a connection thing. And, one of the things that we're starting to see are we're starting to see Gen Z getting very tired of living a virtual digital life. So this is why a lot of these kids are buying records, why they're buying CDs, why they're picking up guitars and sitting down behind drums. And it's possible that we are going to move a little back more into the analog realm because there is, with all this talk about AI and music and all the rest of it, AI makes people who aren't good at music good at music. And there's a process, there's a struggle, there's an issue, with learning, spending 10,000 hours on how to make music. So I'm hoping that we're going to move away from that, and we'll see where things go.
Well, Alan, again, so many ideas came to my mind last night. In fact, I thought that I was just going to turn on the show, watch it for 15 minutes, go to bed, everything was going to be cool. No, I watched the whole thing, and then I was inspired. I wanted to do something. I wanted to, go out and kind of make some sort of change, make some sort of content, go on. I just wanted to go on the air. I wanted to go down to the edge and just open up the doors because there's no one on live at 2:00 in the morning. I could have just flipped the switch.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic.
Could you imagine? Hey, remember that time that I just went in there and I flipped the switch? Oh, that was so much fun until I got arrested. Alan Cross.
Yes.
Thank you for doing this today.
You're really very welcome. Thanks for spreading the word, and we'll see where this whole thing goes.
Alan Cross can be found. The best place is alancross.ca. So much out there. The number one podcast, music podcast in Canada still today. It belongs to this guy, music historian, and more tour dates to come, I'm guessing.
Yep. Go to Ongoing History of Music, a journal of musical things.com. A journal of musical things.com. You go there and you can find out wherever I'm going to be.
And by the way, we should point out too that when you go out and you do a speaking event, your whole thing is, what do you guys want to talk about? And that is set as you sit down on the stool on the stage.
Yeah, and everything I've never had two of these events alike, and they're fantastically fun.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this, my friend. We'll check in with you real soon.
You bet. Thanks.
Now forget everything that you thought you knew from the share